This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.
Hey there, it's Michelle, and I want to help you to live an epic story lifestyle. So, I'd like for you to do me a favor. Go over to epicstorylifestyle.com/live life to grab a free copy of my Hacks for Living an Epic Story Lifestyle checklist. Thanks.
You are listening to Epic Story Lifestyle. If you're new here, welcome. If you're old here, welcome. Here's our chief storyteller herself, Michelle Spiva.
Hey, how you doing, JR?
I'm doing good. You got me all messed up because the last episode you said, oh, the two of you that are listening or three of you, and you and me don't count. So there's one other person listening?
Yes, hopefully. You know what? That's something because I'm getting to the point now where I'll mention it and someone will send me a message on Facebook or email and, tell me how they liked a certain episode. And I'm like, that's great. Can you please rate and review?
That's the way.
Yeah, that would be great. But thank you so much for our listeners out there because I did have a lot of pressure to talk about writing. And I'm like, there are so many podcasts out there about writing and what we do as writers. And I wanted to be me and be able to talk to people out there who happen to possibly read my books, but let you know the lifestyle behind what I do and how you can live your epic story lifestyle too. I'm very grateful and thankful to be able to have a life that I can call epic because I'm finally accepting the fact that I do some pretty rad stuff. And so, yeah.
Nice.
Thanks. But today I wanted to go on and get into this subject, and it's really something that has gotten into my spirit to talk about and to live because so many times I am now finding that I am nothing more than a drone. I was telling you about a book that I have been making my way through. It's very thick and dense, and it's called How to Read a Book. And it had a section where it talked about the way we interact and communicate. And it said that communication is not in that both sides have this equal amount that they put in. It's more so how is either side receiving something? And is there a reaction, a true reaction to it? Another way of putting this is, when I say something, are you simply waiting to have your say? Are you simply agreeing with everything I say without putting it through your filters? Or are you interacting with it and giving a true response to it based on how it bounces off of who you are? And I thought that was really important because I was watching a documentary, and we all know I'm a nerd and I love documentaries. And it was going back and looking at, I was doing a little history actually on a book for Vikings and looking at runes, which are their alphabet. And how some of the runes, the Celtic runes had become symbols for certain things. And because they had been vilified by the Christians as pagans and how they had attributed certain things to their alphabet. It was just amazing to me. And I thought about how symbolically illiterate we are today. There are so many things that we come in contact with and we just ingest it, so there's really not a true discourse or dialogue between us and the symbol. It's just, I see the symbol. Okay. Like take for instance, a stop sign. Okay. Would you agree that's a symbol?
Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm going to take this further. Have you ever, no, you know what? I'm not going to ask you that. I have ran a stop sign before and didn't even realize I had done it until I had done it. There are people out there that run stop signs, even though the symbol means to what? Stop. Right? Okay. Now, that's not me anymore because, of course, that's dangerous. But, in my younger years, I remember one time and I was like, oh my God, thank God nobody was coming, and it really shook me to my core. And I thought about that story of, running the stop sign because of how powerful that symbol is or is supposed to be. And I had gotten to the point where at that time I would see the symbol and not interact with it. I would just ingest it, so much so that it just became just another part of the scenery. And when I'm talking about being symbolically illiterate, is a lot of us are just ingesting the signs of the times, the signs in our lives, and not allowing them to interact with us. And the reason why we want them to interact with us is because they stand for something bigger. Now, does my mind have time to say, oh, this stop sign means stop? And why does it mean stop? It means stops because if you don't, someone could get killed. You could get killed. You could cause a chain action for other people to become, harmed. You can stop or disrupt the flow of traffic. I mean, just so many things could go wrong by not heeding this symbol. But the bigger point is that the symbol is not the danger. The symbol alludes to the danger. And thus, when we become symbolically illiterate, we disconnect from the wisdom that the symbols should provide. Does that make sense? I want to make sure that I'm making sense here because it sounds right in my mind, but that's another thing, So I want to make sure it sounds right. So because of that, I'm going to just read a quick little definition for a symbol. And so, of course, a symbol is a sign. We know that. But the bigger part is that it represents or stands for or even suggests another idea. Now, this symbol it can take the form of many things. It can be words, acronyms, where you have abbreviations for words, sounds, gestures, ideas, or visual images. And they are all there to convey ideas and even beliefs. So, a gesture, if I put my hands up, that should mean surrender, right?
Yes.
Right? Recently, hands up has taken on some type of weird other kind of symbolic meaning that is not causing people to pause and consider the idea behind it. Let me pick another one, just for posterity's sake here. And I picked a gesture. So then what about this one? You might know. I didn't know it. I had to look it up. GOAT. Have you ever seen GOAT all in caps? GOAT?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, I see it, because of course I do a lot of research, and I see it in hashtags, and I see it like, for instance, when Muhammad Ali passed away, you saw GOAT. And I thought, oh, he's a Capricorn. So that's why they're calling him the GOAT, right? Stupid me. That symbol, because that's really what it is, it stands for greatest of all time. Didn't realize that. But now, then in my mind, I was actually picturing a real goat. Yes, I know, stupid me, but I was. But when I went and looked at what it meant, greatest of all time, the symbol became something totally different to me. Totally different. And it caused me to interact with, wow, the greatest of all time. That is a symbol with a heavy meaning to it. Now that I've gotten that done, and going back to, are you symbolically illiterate? What I want to talk about is that symbols are important because you know what? They're actually the language that our brain speaks. Do you realize the brain does not really deal with words? It deals with pictures. And that's why we have symbols in the first place. And so because you need these pictures, symbols can encompass these grand, deep, big beliefs. But the problem is with us becoming so symbolically illiterate is that we're not giving our brains the right symbols And thus, we're not getting the right meanings, beliefs, and ideas that we need to be having to interact with others, to interact with ourselves, and to have an epic story lifestyle. Now, I could go off on the deep end and talk about how, half the time people don't know what their dreams mean because they don't know what the symbols mean because they're confused. I'm not going to go down that path. What I'm going to simply say is that it is time for us to take individual responsibility to do a housekeeping. There was this book, it became really famous, and the funny thing is that the lead character was a symbologist. You've heard of the book The Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown?
I knew right when you said it. Yeah.
Yeah. And now it was amazing to me when the book came out that people were like, all of a sudden, now they want to go back and look at these symbols. Like the symbol that usually represents the four winds in ancient Asian belief systems had then been hijacked to become a swastika. And then after it had been hijacked to become a swastika, it became hijacked to become a symbol of intolerance. I mean, it's just like crazy, all these different iterations of this symbol. And it kind of dawned on me that if we are really in this year and this time and this age wanting to live an epic story lifestyle, then we have to be more cognizant of all the subtleties that influence who we are. In a previous podcast, I talked about being sophomoric and, thinking you have this great knowledge when you only have a surface understanding. Well, being symbolically illiterate is kind of like illiterate. It's the same thing in that you don't take the time. And am I saying that you have to go and look up every symbol and all of the different iterations of its meanings? No. What I am saying is stop, drop, and roll because you're on fire. Do not allow a symbol to just come in and you give no interaction with it. Remember that book said, to be able to have real discourse, real dialogue, and really interact with something, you got to give it time to germinate, and you got to give it time for it to come in and you react to it. Have a reaction to the symbols, and if you don't know what they are, find out what they are. These simple things are the difference between you having the success and the quality of life you want and not. Because I'm going to say this too, not to get people upset, but you are being bombarded with symbol every day. And a lot of times people are sliding symbols in that have meaning that they are going to give you the definition to after they've gotten you to just ingest it without putting your own definition to it. Does that make sense?
Brainwashing is what you're describing.
Yes. And it's real. It's not a conspiracy. It's not any of that stuff. It is a systematic protocol to be able to do what you want. In a previous, I'm so happy that I have all these different shows that we can refer back to. We talked about propaganda. We talked about the father of propaganda and what it was and how you could systematically turn a large group of people to believe whatever you wanted and to give them and to develop and implant the desires that you wanted. Right now, what I'm actually saying, if I have to boil this down with a symbol and being illiterate, is that you have to remember symbols are built. They're not born. And because they're built, that means they must be manufactured by someone. And if they're manufactured by someone, then it is up to you to make sure that you use them for the meaning that you need. Don't just accept that a swastika means that this, or don't just accept that a stop sign means that. Have time for it to interact with you and you to give it meaning. Because if you don't, and you just become a person that just ingests everything that you see and take it for face value, being sophomoric in your thinking, then it robs you of the ability to be epic. Do you realize when you're epic, you are going counterculture to the norm? You are doing what people either can't or won't. And if you won't become more astute in your beliefs of your symbols and being able to even spot them, mind you, then you weaken your ability to have a legendary life, a life that pleases you here and not just in the by and by. This is not to say that you're stupid for just accepting symbols on face value. You have to understand now that you're hearing this, there's a reason why you might be listening to this podcast. It might be to say, wake up. And if you don't know what the symbol is, find out what it is. And if you agree with it, okay. If you don't, then don't accept it. But so for instance, let me give you just a innocuous one, a little harmless one, a symbol. And here in America, we have this franchise called Wendy's, right? And Wendy's has a symbol, and it has a symbol of a little redhead girl with ponytails, right? You familiar with that symbol? We call them icons and all of that, JR?
Yes.
Well, if you go and you look at her, in the collar of her little shirt, right at the base of her neck, is the word mom. M-O-M. Now, mom in America is the same as mum, M-U-M, in the UK, meaning mother. And so every time you see that Wendy symbol, on a subconscious level, that little redhead girl is saying that this is just how your mom used to make it. This gives you great thoughts of your mother.
Wow.
It's right there in front of us all the time when you see the symbol, right? Now, when I realized that that's what it was, I changed. I was like, there is no way in West Hades that this little redhead girl symbolizes my mama's cooking. It ain't happening. And so I am always cognizant now of that symbol when I see it. I know that sounds horrible, and I will say this. I don't know if I did it consciously or unconsciously, but I was like addicted to the little chicken nuggets and Frosties. I can't tell you the last time I went to Wendy's when I became aware of what that symbol was subconsciously translating to me. And then I had the opportunity to deal with whether I accepted what that symbol was supposed to mean for me or not. So like I said, I don't want to come off as crazy, but I just want to ask you, how symbolically literate are you? Are you an ingester, or do you interact with and react to even the symbols that are put before you? Because they are the means by which you live your life. Because the brain understands symbol more than words, and it's that important. So it's up to you that you give your brain not only the right symbols, but the right ideas and messages behind those symbols. So what do you think about that, JR?
It makes me think of this guy. I think his name is Darren Brown. He's one of these people.
Yes.
That's all I keep thinking about is like he's putting all these symbols out there, and then people think he's reading their minds, and really he set them up all day by displaying different symbols and different things to get inside their head, and that's what got me thinking about the brainwashing, actually.
Yeah, and for you guys who may not know, Darren Brown is a famous hypnotist and mentalist out of the UK. You can go and look him up and watch hours and hours of his stuff. And what JR is referring to is how he can use a symbol, like he might use a symbol of a hamburger and have a hamburger on billboards and people eating them and all around you all day. And then at the end of the day, he can say, I bet you're hungry. I bet you like a hamburger. And you say, yes. How did you know that? Well, he's been programming you all day with symbols to want the hamburger. So that was something. But yeah, exactly, JR. See, you're so brilliant. You get me. So that's what I wanted to say. And for my muse moment is really quickly this, is that, everything you see is not everything you should be. You really want to take the time to take control over how you interact with what you see. I heard a great poet talk about how his voice, he said, I want to train my voice so that the words I speak are not simply an illusion, but that they convey the realness of what I think. And I thought that was powerful. So everything you speak, everything you see, don't believe it. put it to the test, vet it. Don't be sophomoric, believing everything on face value and thinking you know something, So that's what I wanted to say about that. As for me and what I'm doing, I'm reevaluating all my symbols. I'm determined that I can't win it all, but I can at least become incrementally better at what I believe and what I allow into my conscious of my belief systems. And so that's why I put that out there, because there are so many things whirling around us, and we have to take a pause moment, and we have to look at all the little nuances and the little things. It's the little foxes that spoil the vine, the little things that keep us from having an epic story lifestyle. So that's what I have for today.
Yeah, it makes me think of, I think Doberman Dan and I talked about it, but really choosing your programming, right? Because everybody else is trying to program you, so why don't you take an active role?
Exactly.
So what do you have coming up for us next time?
This one is, I'm really enjoying this, because I'm going to be talking about cleverness for the win, how to build your cleverness muscle.
All right, looking forward to it. So another Epic Story Lifestyle is in the can. We will be back in your earbuds next time.
Bye.
Hey, Michelle here again. If you like today's show, remember to go to iTunes and in the search bar, type Epic Story Lifestyle. And when you see me, hit that subscribe button. If you really like today's show, hey, come on, do me a solid by giving a rating and a review. If you've got questions, comments, or even show topics you'd like to hear me cover in the future, tell me about them when you leave that wonderful review. All right, my time is up, and I thank you for yours. See you next time. Now go out, make some great decisions that give you that epic story lifestyle.
This is the podcastfactory.com.